Hey, how's it going, guys? Domino Paris 21 here, and finally back to bring you guys another deck profile for you all. So, of course, as you see here, what I have to present to you guys is my Chaos Breaker Dragon deck, fit and ready, of course, for 16 G zones. Definitely got to stick with the Kurumi sleeves on this one, because I don't know about you, but I think it fits the theme too well to not use. But yeah, Chaos Breaker Dragon is actually be my first time building and showcasing this deck for you guys, and it's kind of funny because I know like a long while back when he like first came out, I was like telling everyone my locals, I was like, man, I hate Chaos Breaker, I hate Chaos Breaker, it ruins the game for me, and I think a lot of people can, you know, share that opinion as well of Chaos Breaker. But of course, that was when I was sitting on the other side of Chaos Breaker, having to deal with his shenanigans. But now that I'm on his good side, I'm definitely really enjoying the deck. A lot of great benefits this deck has, and it's really a great viable option, of course, especially for my local scene with Royals and Angel Feathers on the rise in popularity. So he kind of helps stabilize my local meta for me. But yeah, especially with the expansion of 16 G zones, Chaos Breaker definitely has reaped one of the greatest benefits, just being able to run at 4 of, you know, 2 of, I think, the most powerful strides in the game, Big Crunch and Chaos Universe freely. So definitely this is one of the decks that greatly benefited from the 16 G zones, and I'm really happy for that. But yeah, without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get to the deck itself. So for starters, I'm gonna go with your Star Vader Carbon, probably like the most common starter used by Chaos players. Now, initially, I was actually using Dusttail Unicorn, which is, of course, like the original Star Vader starter. I don't have one to show you guys, but it's Combust 1, put him in Soul. If your opponent has a lock card, lock one of their cards. So the reason why I actually played that, and I found that to be the better card at the time I was playing it, was before, you know, 16 G zones. It was only 8 G zones, no G guards. And, of course, at that time, you know, grade 2 game was a big thing. And while it's not really smart to grade 2 game Chaos Breaker Dragon anyway, people were still doing that to me in my local scene. So Unicorn just either discourages them from doing so, or trying to rush me down, or it just punishes them for doing that. Because, you know, being able to ride grade 3 and immediately lock out their whole field essentially was very strong. So Unicorn was the more optimal choice. But I feel that now with post 16 G zone, Carmen, I think, provides just better benefits, just because I found, in my personal experience at least, more and more players are kind of like not implementing grade 2 game as much. And most importantly, you know, there's really not much point to it in some cases, just with G guards being able to enable your GB3 skills early on, like before your opponent. There's not much benefit to it in a lot of cases. So I found Carbon to be a much more consistent choice in this case. So Carbon, of course, if your opponent has a locked card, put him in Soul, Superior Call, a grade 1 Star Vader. So usually my go-to is the Limit Break Enabler, so that obviously you can get Chaos Breaker's Limit Break skill online. And what I like with Carbon is the fact is, with the way this deck works, like your grade 2s, they all require a locked card on your opponent's field for their abilities to work. So usually you have to, like, turn 2, you're not really, you know, rushing your opponent down or calling anything from your hand. You're usually conserving them until grade 3, when you can actually start locking your opponent's cards. So obviously he works as the boosting your Vanguard for the first 2 turns, but then once you start getting into your stride turns, it's not necessary to, you know, boost your Vanguard, because hitting for 26 or 31 doesn't really make a difference, especially early, mid-game, or just, in most cases, 26 is already optimal number. So it's really nice that he brings a lot of value with himself, being able to basically turn into a free 7k booster for your rear guard. So that's like one extra card you don't have to call from your field, which is really great. And obviously being able to tutor is always good. And most importantly, doesn't cost counterblast, so I find him to be the more consistent, solid choice for the deck now. Excuse me, guys, I have a little bit of a cough going on. Recovering from allergies right now. So, grade 3s, of course, you have your 4 Chaos Breaker Dragon. I think by now we should already know what he does, but yeah, everything is centered around Chaos Breaker. And your 4 Chaos Bringer. So it's a very simple, straightforward grade 3 lineup. Really, the deck in general is pretty simple and straightforward, but yeah, as you see here, I don't play any Legions. I understand some people like to play Legions for like the late game when your deck's really thin, you want to shove triggers back in and make that one push or whatever. But honestly, you're really not going to run out of steam in this deck. to need to do so in my experience, and also at the same time, it's more I value being able to have a Chaos Vanguard at all times for the sake of consistency, because you definitely got to remember that Chaos Universe requires a Chaos Heart. And, you know, I see people play Blaster Joker and was it Star Vader, Garnet Star, but I feel like those are not necessary, and it's more of a luxury for, you know, the reasons that people play them in their decks. So I feel like just going 4 and 4 with Bringer and Chaos Breaker, it's a much more consistent choice. Plus, Chaos Breaker Bringer skill for his on-ride skill to lock a back row actually pretty beneficial at times. Even if I had Chaos Breaker in my hand, just because he gives you a lock at the cost of the same Counterblast 1, but it doesn't cost a card from your hands, and I can make him into a Chaos Breaker anyway. So, yeah, this is a very, very simple, straightforward Grade 3 lineup. Grade 2s, of course, running like the one of the best cards in the deck, honestly, in your best Grade 2, your Photon. Unfortunately, these aren't Legion rares, so I'm sorry, Agent, for not having Legion rares, because you probably bought them all. But yeah, just when your opponent has a locked card and it's placed on rearguard circle, it freely locks one of your opponent's rearguard. So obviously really good to continue your opponent's field lockdown, and it's free of cost, hence why this is pretty expensive. Then you have your 4 Iron, kind of the same, work similar to Photon, but he is a standard 11k attacker as long as your Vanguard is Chaos, and he costs a Counterblast 1 for the same effect as Photon. So I run 8 relockers because I feel like relocking is I just want to max out on my relockers, because it's really important to maintain that field lock on your opponent, because that is essentially how you win with this deck, by not letting your opponent do anything while you just keep wailing on them with your boosted columns. So I run 8 relockers, and then I run 3 colony makers. Previously, I actually used to run 4 colony makers and like 3 iron, just because I really liked the free tutor by colony maker, but that was actually before I played Carbon. But with the use of Carbon, like I mentioned, the fact is that he becomes a free booster essentially. After boosting your Vanguard for 2 turns, he becomes a free booster for your rearguard. I didn't find colony maker as useful in those cases, or I kind of found she clogged a little bit in multiples, and I kind of valued having that 1 extra relocker. Now, excuse me. Now the opinion can vary based on the control matchup, because I know with Kagero again on the rise again, you know, Colony Maker is definitely a great option for recovery when your field gets blown up multiple times. So honestly, you can really go back and forth with it. I mean, you can run 4 of these and 3 iron, and it's still not bad either. But for now, I really do like the 8 relockers in the deck. So simple as that. And then for grade 1s, I'm actually running the G Perfect Guards for Link Joker. I actually talked to some other guys in my local area who plays Chaos Breaker, and they still like the Star Vader Perfect Guard. For the reason is, you know, obviously with Chaos Breaker's Limit Break skill, you do have to Soul Blast Star Vader units only, which he or she, I don't know, he's clearly not. Which I guess, you know, if you're right, it kind of sucks, but I honestly didn't find that too much of a problem in a lot of cases. And obviously, you know, and Chaos Breaker does require you to discard a Star Vader to lock something, but honestly, I never in a million years want to lock a Perfect Guard for the most part. I mean, so I didn't care too much. I really do value the free unflip that he does bring. Although the deck does have Zinc as a way to unflip or to countercharge for you, actually in 2. Having that extra unflip is still very beneficial, because you're really only going to use this card like 1 time in a game. It's rare that you use it twice, just because obviously there is the risk of deck out if you use it too many times. And sometimes your opponent will try to play around your counterblast. They'll try to restrict your counterblast to prevent some of your plays. So just having this is really nice to get that free counterblast, because you're not always going to be at like 5 damage or 4 damage where you want to be to have all the free counterblast. So that 1 extra unflip definitely came in handy for me in a lot of key games. So definitely running these. Then the rest of the ones is pretty simple, guys. 4 Limit Break Enablers, 3 Zinc, and 3 Stride Enablers. So, excuse me, a few things to address. There's like 3 other grade 1s, obviously, that I'm not playing. First things, I mean, 1, I'm not playing Lanthanum. This was an option early on for me, because I was like running 10k grade 2s. I can like do 2 locks to get 21 columns, but just was not that good in the end. And there's the option of Palladium, of course, that I know some people play, but the goal of this deck, for Chaos Breaker that is like I said, you want to lock out your opponent's field so that only their Vanguard is attacking, and at the same note, in order, obviously with Link Joker having a lack of an ideal finisher, it's very important to maintain boosters on your field and just keep attacking with consistent full column attacks. Even if they're just 10k guards, as one trigger makes them 21, making it 15k guards, and it's really important just to maintain keep boosters on your field to keep that consistent flow of attacks every single turn. It's very important to help close out your games faster. Palladium, that extra the relock is nice, but the extra counterblast can be a little bit hefty at times, even with the zinc. And like I said, it's I value having boosters maintained on my field more. And with zinc is in the deck that goes into soul to soul charge 2, counter charge 2, I'm already like lacking boosters as is for the most part. So I don't really want to play both of these in the same deck for that reason. And also another card which I don't have on me because I think I sold it or something is Volt Line. I know Volt Line is definitely a popular choice because it's a good tutor option for Carbon, but here's why I don't like Volt Line. So Volt Line's skill, it's a grade 1 7k. Starvader is when it's boosted, when it boosts an attack and it hits your opponent's Vanguard, you get to, by mandatory skill, Omega Lock one of your opponent's already locked cards. Now, I feel like that doesn't contribute to the goal of Chaos Breaker Dragon, where, you know, your first and second strat is usually focused on using Universe to pluck a card from their hand to their board, and then you want to use Chaos Breaker skill to, you know, retire and draw to gain that nice plus off those locked cards, only to make them plant another card in place of it. And then after you go the second use of Universe, you want to keep their cards on the field just to keep relocking. So, you know, Volt Line can have some uses in that point, and I understand the pressure it can bring, but early on, in my testing, I found that it just didn't contribute to it because, especially within my first 2 Universe strides, I actually want to retire my opponent. I actually want my opponent's cards to unlock quickly so that I can just retire, draw, reap the benefits, and then I'm going to start keeping their field locked down. So, I mean, you can easily cut down on a few cards to make room for it, but I just didn't find a lot of benefit in it. And plus, you know, like a lot of times people will go like, you know, they'll use Carbon and put Volt Line behind the Vanguard so that, you know, it can kind of more guarantee the hit. Just because either your opponent has the perfect guard for it or not. But again, like I said, once you start going into your striding turns, I really don't want to have to waste a card from my hand to boost my Vanguard, because it's not, when you hit 26 or higher, it's not necessary. Either your opponent burns like 3 cards or precious like heal triggers to G guard to block a 26, which still baits out 2 cards, or it burns a perfect guard, or they end up taking it anyway. So I feel like that's kind of a waste of value there. So I'd rather just keep my Vanguards boosted, just keep locking their fields down, and just focus on my strides to kind of get me there as far as locking is concerned. So that's why I kind of just max out on everything. Plus, there are times, especially in the control matchup, where I want to keep a limit break enabler on the board, so I will actually like to have 2 or sometimes 3 on board to make sure that I get that limit break skill. So, you know, that's kind of another reason why I run 4. But yeah, and then of course, this 3 zinc, but you really only use zinc 1 time, so having 3 kind of guarantees you that you are going to use it at least 1 time per every game. So like I said, it's very straightforward lineup I play for the reasons I explained. And then for triggers, you may guess this already. Definitely this card's like MVP, because like late game, which is kind of like why I don't really care about playing a Legion, because like late game you kind of hoard these in your hand and just throw them in your deck. But actually what he does, his name is Starvader Paradigm Shift Dragon, really long name, but what he does is you can put him back into your deck, and if your opponent has a lock card, you can lock one of their back row units. Now keep in mind, you can just pay the cost and not lock anything, so if I have like 4 of these in hand, I'll just throw them all back into my deck, just to have like 4 crits back in my deck. So like very late game, when your deck does become very thin, you can just start shoving these back in just to help get some crits in the late game. So like easily one of my favorite cards in the deck for that reason. It's really, really amazing card. Then 4 more crits. 4 more crits, 4 heal. Best heal, because she looks like Ashley Reverse. But yeah, that is pretty simple there. 12 crits, of course. I don't play draws. I understand why people play draws in Chaos Breaker because, you know, I can understand like early on, you know, you may not have, you will have trouble building hand, I guess, because until you take advantage of Universe, take advantage of Chaos Breaker's limit break ability, you're not going to be drawing any resources for yourself. So it can be slow, I guess, in building up resources until you start getting into the flow of things for your deck. But I never really found that to be much of a problem. And plus, if my opponent's if the deck is running by design and effectively locking down my opponent's field, preventing much offense against me, that's just cards I'm saving in my hand. And plus, like I said, this deck doesn't have an ideal finisher, so the 12 crits, in addition to just maintaining boosted columns at all times, is what is going to correspond to closing out the game, you know, quickly, you know, because you're progressively just wearing your opponent down turn by turn. And like I said, in team leagues, in the New York team leagues I played this deck in, I was actually like one of the first guys in my team finishing my games. I was finishing by turn like 5, turn 6 at times, but I didn't really have too many grind out games necessarily because the 12 crits got the damage out quickly. And again, you know, I was able to conserve resources because my opponent's field was locked down. So if the deck works by design, I don't think you need the draw triggers. Plus, I value crits more than draws anyway. So that's it for the main deck. But yeah, but like I said, actually, let me actually show you the strides before I show you like the breakdown of the plays in the deck. But the strides are pretty simple. You probably can already guess what I'm playing, but you're of course running the 4 Chaos Universe. If you guys don't know what he does, if I can find my 4th one, hopefully I didn't lose it. Oh no. Where'd it go? Here it is. 4 Chaos Universe. What he does is on stride, Counterblast 1, Persona flip a copy of him. Your opponent takes 1 card from their hand and they place it in a locked position on a circle that you on an open rearguard circle that you targeted. So obviously you usually want to put it in a front row circle to obviously prevent that whole column from being used as an attacking column. And of course for the GB3 skill, on top of plucking a card from their hand to lock on the circle, on the rearguard circle that you selected, you can lock an additional card. So it's like first stride, you go into Universe, you make them plop a card, and then either you retire it and you reap the benefits from Chaos Breaker, or if they already have like another rearguard on the other side, you can just retire, draw, and then Chaos Universe, that open rearguard circle you opened up, and then lock this card that they already have on board. Or if they don't, then you can just make them plop this card, don't retire this card from the previous Chaos Universe, and then just at that point you just keep their field locked from there. So that's what I really love with Universe, and what makes him so freaking powerful is the fact is he forces your opponent to lock their field. Because obviously some strategies that people will have Link Joker previously, they just won't call anything early on and conserve, but Chaos Universe forces them to have a locked field, which is very powerful. And that's what makes the difference between this and Messiah, is that I can force my opponent into that position that they don't want to be. So it's really hard to avoid that. And then of course your 4 Big Crunch Dragon. Really happy I could just run 4 of these in the deck freely, because it's actually funny because again with the 12 crits and maintaining boosted columns, I don't find myself going into the second Big Crunch as often because I'm usually closing out the game anyway by then. But like I said, just having 4 of these is really strong. Like 4 and 4 on this is strong, while still having options to work with. So very good. And then I'm actually running 3 Amnesty, 1 Secret Pack. Shoutouts to my buddy Zakurl for hooking me up for a good deal for getting this. So yeah, 3 of these. Obviously for the Link Joker mirror match, not much more said than that. I know like some people like to think about playing Excelix, but I don't think it's very useful in a lot of cases, and it takes up like 2 slots because you have to stride him first. So I actually just went with the simple 3, and plus I'm ever so fortunate to have 3, you know, because I know how expensive it can be. And next for the G guards, I'm actually running 5 G guards. So I'm running 2 Screw You, 1 Dismal, and 2 of the Starvader G guard. Now I know the Starvader G guard is not very good, and every time I use it, me and another guy I know, we always go like traitor, you know, because we have to lock a board. It's not too bad necessarily, because, you know, it could help give you that 1 extra card you need to get the extra crit from Messiah, which actually worked out in my favor a lot of times. And the way to play around it is you just take advantage of Colony Maker. Because obviously if your opponent's only attacking with their Vanguard only, your front row is usually always there because they're not being attacked by rear guards that are being locked. So you can like Colony Maker, call it behind your Vanguard, So what you do is, let me get my deck. So let's say you have a Zinc on board and it's boosting. Like I said, usually I have an open spot behind my Vanguard, so then I will just like use Zinc, put in Soul. It's a card off my field, reap the benefits from it, and then I can like call a Colony Maker from my deck to replace that booster. So although Colony Maker is obviously sitting dead behind my Vanguard, it becomes now a target for my G-Guard. And like I said, you don't really have to boost your Stride anyway, so it just makes for just maxing out the value of some plays just like that. So like I said, it's not too bad, but definitely no more than 2. Then 1 Dark Dismal, obviously for, you know, D-Police, Cross, and whatever, and you don't really care about, I don't really care about protecting my front row, but just for that matchup, and then 2 Screw You, because the deck takes full advantage of that, and garbage trick decks still are a thing to deal with, so this deck can take advantage of it, so I say go ahead and run the 2. But yeah, that's pretty much the deck itself. Like I said, guys, I mean, the deck runs pretty simple, straightforward, as far as the goal is concerned, but like I said, it's all about the pilot, you know, it's about the pilot of this deck that really makes it successful. Because, like I said, as long as you have a solid build, you got to pilot it correctly. So you already know the strategy. The strategy should be pretty simple, but it's about just executing it in, you know, in the real world environment where things may not go right for you. Your opponent may try certain plays, you know, to go against you, and it's about how you adapt as a player to help address that. And that's really what makes a good Link. That's what makes Link Joker pretty scary. Is the fact is, put this in the hands of a very good player. It's a very scary, even scarier deck to deal with than what it already is. But other than that, guys, that is the deck for you all. Hope you guys enjoyed that. As always, leave a like. It's always appreciated, and leave a comment down below with any questions or I don't know, if you don't like my deck, even tell me that too. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But as always, guys, thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you guys later.